welcome to this episode of Under the Tamarisk Tree, and thank you for listening to our podcast and being part of our community. If we haven't met, my name is Phil Harwood, one of the co-founders of Tamarisk Business Advisors. We help business owners with succession planning and exiting their businesses or helping them with intergenerational transfers. And I am very pleased today to have with me Greg Heeres. Greg is a man of many talents. He has an insurance background, which I want to delve into a little bit. He is also an author. He has written a great book called The Business Baton: How to Solve the Owner's Dilemma and Exit with Clarity and Confidence. And he is also a business owner, and he is the president of Maximize. Maximize can be found at maximizeleadership.com. So, Greg, thank you for being here.
Bill, it's wonderful to be on your show. You're doing a great job communicating content. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. So we met at the West Michigan Exit Planning Association meetings and events, social events. And you've been a presenter there and very active. And so, I've just been really impressed by the way you carry yourself, your style. You have a warm heart. You have a big smile. You're a person of substance. I don't know how tall you are. I won't ask, but when you walk in that, when Greg walks in the room, everyone knows Greg's in the room, which I think is super cool. Not everyone has that stature. So, but we're not here to talk about that. That's God's gift, and we all have our own gifts. I want to hear about your background, Greg. I want to hear about your business. I want to hear about how you're helping people and that type of thing. So let's just start with your business. Tell me about what you do.
With Maximize, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. Right.
I think, Phil, for a lot of years, just being in the practice of insurance, working with lots of business owners over 33 decades, you realize the value of businesses in communities. I'm not against an international company, but a local, whatever regional business, it brings such value to your community, whether it's philanthropy, hiring employees, buying from local vendors. So I've just learned through some amazing meetings through the years. Working with business owners is a pleasure. And if we can defend, as just like you all do, is you try to help them figure out how to exit and exit well and hand the baton to the right successor to keep it going. So Maximize is sort of a boutique, Phil. I've been a part of big companies for a lot of decades, and it's an aircraft carrier at some point, right? It's just hard to move it. And I'd rather be on a little Mastercraft or maybe a Sea-Doo jet ski or something. You can make a quick turn and change. I love listening to their stories, Phil. So do you. This is a storytelling time, right? Your podcast is sharing. The mom and pops I really love. Trying to figure out, can kids take it? Can key employees take it? But Maximize, there's really quarterbacks, Phil. That's the position I played in sports growing up. Call the huddle, and people like yourself and others need to be in the huddle to help that business owner figure out what's next and make sure we give them as good advice as we can give them. Yeah.
Who are you focusing on certain geographical areas? I mean, we're obviously both here in West Michigan, but and you probably get a lot of work here, but are there certain industries you're looking for or types of businesses? You mentioned mom and pops, but kind of what's the sweet spot for you, or is there one?
I don't know if there is a sweet spot. I love the stories. I would say West Michigan or at least Michigan. I've got a little work in Detroit and got a little work in Kalamazoo. And then I have a place down in Florida, so I'm in Lauderdale a decent amount. And so I'm kind of working the West Palm, Lauderdale area, but it's quite different than West Michigan. There's different ethos that people operate in, but sweet spot, you got to have a little bit of EBITDA, a little value to the company to really make it worthwhile. Tax-wise, you got to, you bring in a CPA. But I would say, something under 50 million. Would be, so the kind of small to mid cap would be my category. Sure. I did help a logistics company. They were about 65 million sell, but or transfer, I should say. That really wasn't my goal, and it's not a particular industry. I really don't wish to be a specialist in it. Only
Hmm.
if you're going to sell to a third party would a niche help, right?
Sure.
If it's
Right.
internal, if kids can take it over, it doesn't matter if it's manufacturing,
Hmm.
tool and die, construction. But yeah, I
Hmm.
love their stories and want to preserve their legacy. That's my
Yeah.
mission.
What about, thank you for that. What about as far as just the time that you have pre-transition or pre-sale or whatever? Is there a recommended amount of time? Of course, we always want as much time as we can get, but
Right,
is there
right.
is there kind of a like a, are you putting people through like a certain program? It's 18 months, and so you really need 18 months, or do you just want as much time as you can get to help them prepare?
That's a good question, Phil. Ideally, I'd like a couple years, a few years.
Hmm.
I would say the 18 to 24. One of the things I really do a lot with is I work with the business owner, could be owner and spouse, and get them
Hmm.
ready. There's a little process that I go through in terms of what are your hobbies? Do you have some place to land? Do you have something else you'd like to go chase? And then, of course,
Hmm.
if they identify maybe some kids or kids and key employees, I'm talking more internal perpetuation.
Hmm.
Then I want to work with those kids to kind of leadership develop them before the baton's handed. Because I find the
Hmm.
baton, when handed, then I've worked with the owner and their spouse and potentially the kids for 2 years. We've got a pretty good handle on their assessment, their capabilities, their interest, and they're going to do it different than mom and dad. And that's the other part to
Hmm.
get ready for. But I think the readiness phase, Phil, is where I really play
Hmm.
developing a plan for the owner and spouse, and then developing the successors, kids, key employees, etc. Make sure they're ready to take the baton and honor the legacy.
Hmm. How important is it, Greg, to work with your clients to help them understand what happens post sale or post transition? If someone kind of pushes back, says, "Oh, I don't really know, I don't really want to deal with that right now. I'm just focused on today, and I'm just focused on, you know
Mm,
I want to get to Florida like you, I want to get to the
right.
next thing, but I have no idea what it's going to look like. Let's move on to another topic. Greg, what else you got?"
Well, it wouldn't be how are the Detroit Tigers pitching staff doing? Half of them are
Right.
injured.
Right.
Uh, I would say my first goal, Phil, in meeting, let's say you happen to give me a referral, I would include you on all the updates and if we had to bring in other people in the huddle. But I really want a plan written. It doesn't even have to be
Mm-hmm.
in permanent marker. It could be pencil. Because if something would happen to the business owner and their spouse, you know, where do the kids find information? Where do the
Hmm.
kids find the professionals to help them, carry the torch? And so to me, a pre-plan, just let's write something down, tuck it away. I've had a couple successful stories. Unfortunately, we did get a plan done and they wanted to table it. And then something happened, and I won't get into the
Mm.
details. You know those
Sure.
stories, Phil. And so you're
Mhm.
okay. We're pulling the plan back out. Wow, it's even it's in pencil. It's still good. And then I think the
Mhm.
second part is that phase of getting ready. But the first one, let's just get a penciled plan in
Mhm.
case something wrong happens. And sometimes it does, unfortunately. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think the longer they kick the can down the road, less planning, less development, and our chances are just less. How's that?
Mhm.
To
Right.
make sure, you've had those in your practice too. Does that baton get dropped? Why did it get dropped? You don't really get a second chance to transfer, a really cool business and train the successors. You get one.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's chaos.
Yeah. What advice do you have for, typically, in my experience anyway, kind of the founders of the business who are wanting to pass the baton to the next generation, but they just can't. They can't give up control. They can't. They just are always doing it in a passive aggressive way or some negative, some not a healthy way. Like
Right.
how do you work with that environment when it's just not going well?
Oh, well, so you bring up a subject I didn't even get to tell you off podcast here, but I lost my dad about 16, 17 months ago. It
Oh, I'm
was
sorry to hear
it,
that.
it's a wonderful story. He and I were really, really tight. I just want more time. Well, he died at
Hmm.
88. Okay, I'm being a little selfish now. But
Hmm.
what I noticed, Phil, and kind of tying it into our interview here, people process grief different. So my mom is a widow. My sister doesn't have her dad, and that dad-daughter thing was special. Grandkids and nieces and nephews that just process grief. So I had a little windshield time, and as it happened, an idea popped in my noggin on writing a book. And so my book will come out this August, and Phil, it addresses
Oh,
the issue of emotions.
okay.
So
Nice.
you and I both would say, you've had those interviews. I have too. The guy goes, "Yeah, my company's worth about 10 million, don't you think?" I don't know. I haven't done a valuation
Hmm.
yet. But then you realize, okay, let's say it's worth 10. Now what? And that now what is that big space of
Mm.
identity, routine, the role that they played as a problem solver. It got them up in the morning at 5 a.m.
Hmm.
And that's kind of going to be taken away, and they're really dread it. And the
Mm.
emotional grief stages of, Kubler-Ross was an amazing researcher, and she developed
Hmm.
5 stages. And it correlates
Mm.
pretty much what I've experienced with business owners, denial, bargaining, mad,
Mm.
sad, and eventually acceptance. But if we have enough time, acceptance should be a celebration, not a, I got to do this. So I try to make it not a downer, but I will
Hmm.
say business owners don't like planning their business funeral. How's that?
It's fascinating. I can't wait
Sorry,
to get a handle on the book, get
I'll
a
send
copy
you
of the
one.
book and read it. But so do those, it totally makes sense. There's a grief process in the 5 stages. Does that happen? Could that happen before the transition as a
Hmm.
business owner ages and has to wrestle with the fact that, hey, I can't run this thing forever? Or is it happening afterward, or could it go either way?
I think most of it's before, Phil.
Okay.
I really do. The
Hmm.
hesitation, the procrastination,
Hmm.
maybe even denying, some facts of, I know my VP or my operations person or my son or my daughter are really eager to take over, but I'm not ready. And so
Hmm.
usually it's before that baton's been passed. And
Hmm.
so we got to give them some landing area, right? A chance to land their beautiful story and
Hmm.
have another chapter. But usually, Phil, it's the apprehensiveness even to plan. That's what I would say.
Hmm. Yeah. I've often wondered what the secret sauce is to for the parents who are able to just set the kids up and step back and just let them have it and just stay out of
Yeah,
it. And I because I
yeah.
do see very successful stories with that
Hmm.
happening. And or sometimes, like, dad sold the business to a son and son's running the business. Dad's still working, dad's a truck driver, or dad's the mechanic, or sweet, or empties the trash, but dad doesn't stick his nose in the accounting.
Yep, yep,
Dad just empties the trash and
yep.
is happy to have something to do. So I
Right.
just wonder, like, what is it about those people that can do that versus the ones that are just holding on for dear life? And maybe it is just the ability to face it and accept reality, and maybe there
Hmm.
is a grief they already went through. I don't know. It seems like there's such a difference between group A, who's holding on for dear life, and group B, who seems to have no problem, just it's all yours.
Right, right. Do you remember that there was a picture of a stork? It's a cartoon, and there's a frog partly down the stork's or the heron's
Yeah.
mouth, but the
Hmm.
frog has got his hands around the heron's neck.
Right.
And I feel sometimes that's life, right? Like
Hmm.
I know I'm going to be eaten by this heron. I'm going to choke. Hopefully, I can get out of here. I just think for some parents and family-owned businesses, um, potentially, Phil, maybe the business has been the marriage.
Hmm.
Maybe the business has been the family conversation for around the
Hmm.
table. And so I think the ones you're speaking of, you've got lots of experience in it too. The group A maybe the business didn't define them as much as Group B, where Group A
Mhm.
might be able to say, my kids have been in this business for 10 years. They know enough. I'm available, but
Mhm.
I'm going to go do something else that intrigues me that I wasn't able to. Group B is, this is all I am, which is sad, and it's not
Mhm.
true. And that's what we got to help business owners figure out. I'll give you one funny story about a business owner and their spouse. I interviewed them before I met their kids and then key people. And the mom
Mhm.
basically said, Greg, I just want coffee money and I want good Easters and Christmases. Okay. This is not real. Like,
Nice.
it wasn't like, I need to keep my country club, or, I
Mhm.
want a new Mercedes every 2 years or anything like that. It was just, I want coffee and good holidays. And I said,
Nice.
well, I can do that for you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not too hard. The ones where, you're trying to nudge the owner and they kind of change their mind. And those are
Mhm.
those are hard ones because they know, in the book you talked about at the top of the interview podcast, the Business Baton. I think it's the second to the last chapter. It's when the phone ceases to ring, and
Mhm.
that is just deathly quiet to an owner. You know,
Right.
Chamber of Commerce, United Way,
Mhm.
nonprofits don't call for donations. Vendors don't call because they know, the owner is no longer buying the, purchasing
Mhm.
product. It's pretty quiet, Phil. And I think for most, that adjustment is deafening.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I kind of retired in air quotes
Hmm. Hmm.
first time around, I was 45, and it was back in the Nextel days, and I
Yeah.
was a 6,000 minute a month guy, like
Mm.
all day long, just you know chirps and phone calls, and just
Yep.
from 5 a.m. till whenever, like every day. And I remember surrendering my Nextel to the company, and at the going away party, and then waking up the next morning with no device, with
Oh,
no
wow.
no like literally no, like the umbilical cord was like there was no way to communicate. It was the weirdest feeling. And I
Mm.
just like, I have no responsibility, I have no employees, I have no phone. I'm just like on the moon. And it was the
Yeah.
weirdest feeling. It was so strange. I was excited
Yeah.
because I had a plan. I
Mm.
was going somewhere, so it wasn't like I had
Yep.
nothing to do, but it was the strangest feeling.
I think for whether I love entrepreneurs. So, if they started the company, they bought the company, they inherited the company, they improved and scaled the company. They put a lot of lifeblood into this thing. And then all of a sudden, as your example, it's like no one even knows how to get a hold of me.
Right.
And
I'm
it's
gone.
it's
Yeah.
pretty hard. My laugh to some buddies that I've helped sell their companies, and it's been a fun journey. Depending if you know them, you can kind of call them out a little bit, or kind of, I know you're going to go here, so let's talk about it. It's okay. But I think that you can't golf and fish that much, Phil.
Hmm.
So a
Right.
business owner needs to have a next chapter, something that excites
Hmm.
them or challenges them. Not I've had a couple of business owners that just were plumb tired, and
Hmm.
they stopped. They stopped the treadmill and they're off. Well, then their health declined, and I really wasn't able to do a whole lot because they were kind of giving up.
Hmm.
And so we kind of had to rejuvenate those conversations. And actually, the spouse actually emailed me and says, "Hey, I think we should re-meet."
Mm.
So
Makes sense.
yeah, post the sale or post the
Hmm.
transaction or the liquidity event, it's fun to look at your bank account and say, "Oh my gosh, we've got 8 million after taxes," or pick a number.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, but where is everybody?
Yeah. Who are
It's
we
like,
going to enjoy it with? Yeah.
yeah, not that you can't enjoy it with kids and so forth,
Right.
but I do think the tough part for most business owners is it defined them because they gave
Hmm.
their all. And that's what I love about it.
Hmm.
And you got to preserve that broken heart. That's kind of what we're doing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were in the insurance business for I don't know for how long, but I think you
30 years.
owned an
Yeah.
agency, or yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Two of them. Yep. Yep.
what so I kind of have two questions, but they're
Sure.
just background questions. Like, how did you get into that? And
Oh,
um, which probably takes me back to like maybe college or something, or you back that
right.
far. But like, and then
Yeah.
how do you what led you to make that decision to kind of start doing what you're doing now and exit the insurance business?
That's a great question. So in college, just this is for the audience. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. So I was drafted by the Falcons in the NFL. So I tried out, got cut, and I think the good Lord saved me from knee injuries,
Mm.
concussions, etc. And then came back, and a guy said, "Hey, I love to hire athletes." Okay,
Hmm.
and it wasn't like I went to college to play in the NFL, but that's just how it worked out beautifully.
Hmm.
Anyway, I said, I'm more than happy to talk. He happened to be an insurance broker, and he hired me, and that's how I got started. He was actually a
Hmm.
college football player, and he played for the Redskins. So he kind of
Okay.
knew, maybe
Yeah.
it might work, and it did. He had good
Hmm.
insight. Um, my first company, we grew about 80 employees. We had two companies. One of my partners loved the wholesale side. I loved the retail side. So we took
Hmm.
the retail side, sold it to another broker, and that's where I ended up being a partner for 21 years and
Mm.
built that. And then we sold that to a PE firm, primarily about a baton. We had six partners. My youngest was
Hmm.
45, my oldest was 63, and we had no bullpen
Mm.
and no mechanism, Phil. And so we really needed someone to help us with that mechanism to fund the next partners to buy shares. And
Hmm.
so both of those deals were quite different. And of course, I had clients that sold, and was around the table
Hmm.
kind of helping them process. And
You
I
learned a
just,
ton.
I learned a ton, brother. This is my crazy comment. I usually will say this to most people. I could probably write a pretty thick book on good things, good decisions, good
Hmm.
success. I could write a freaking trilogy on mistakes, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, some I learned, some I watched, you know,
Hmm.
and or observed. But yeah, just being able to speak to moving on. So I retired 5.5 years ago at 56. I know I'm
Hmm.
telling the audience my age, but at the same time, I was ready for something else. I had
Hmm.
maximized the whole time. Mostly maximize was about writing and speaking. I really didn't do a whole lot of
Hmm.
owner advising
Yeah.
because I was in my own practice, right?
Hmm.
I had to give my skills to my partners and my team. But
Sure.
so for a lot of years, I did maximize as well, parallel. They weren't competing. And once I retired from my practice as a partner in a firm, it gave me a little more chance to dig in. So I've been enjoying this run. Um,
Hmm.
Sometimes Phil, maybe you get those meetings too, where the business owner shares a little bit, and you're like, I'm probably going to take that to my grave. That's something very personal,
Hmm.
and there's a trust, confidence that you, myself, and others, when we're working with business owners, you just got to be zip-lipped. You're going to hear
Hmm.
things that maybe they trust you, but I can't do anything with. They just needed to talk. And
Right.
so I would give you this: if business
Hmm.
owners wanted to talk with you or me, I would just say, let's grab coffee. I
Hmm.
don't want a big
Sure.
lunch. I don't want a big meal.
Yep.
I don't want to do it in your boardroom. Everybody looks.
Hmm.
Let's just do a coffee and kind of navigate a plan, kind of hear your worries, hear your
Hmm.
goals, and then you come up with a good process, which we have. But
Hmm.
most business owners want to know where they're at in the process.
Yeah.
Like where am I? Am I mile marker 10? I got five more to go. I
Hmm.
can do it. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, but for you and I, we have to defend the business owner. You've got four bad D's, right? A disaster in the company. That could be tariffs. That could be a patent issue. It could be a lost employee that took half the
Hmm.
clients, whatever.
Right.
You have disease, could be, something really sad. Could be divorce, something really sad, or death, abrupt.
Hmm.
And none of those four can we navigate around. That's why I really like, just give me a penciled plan. That's all. And then
Hmm.
we can wait. I've got one
Hmm.
client, Phil, that's we're 4 years away, but we have a penciled plan. And that makes me
Nice.
feel okay.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
have to do a whole lot of work yet, but
Hmm.
I have a plan. And the kids know to get a hold of me
Hmm.
if, you know.
Yep.
So
So key, so important.
Hmm.
Are you involved in any, like I said, we met at the West Michigan Exit Planning Association meetings, but are you involved in any charitable organizations or faith-based groups or anything here in West Michigan? Do you do any volunteer work?
I do. So I'm with a basically a audio Bible program that distributes audio Bibles around the world.
Hmm.
I'm involved with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which takes high school kids and puts them in camps and let them develop character and their faith.
Hmm.
I'm on a church board, school board, just trying
Hmm.
to, not for business, Phil, just to give
Right.
back, right? Just to
Hmm.
give back. The West Michigan exit is a different one because it's awesome people like you and terrific business owners that are around the table and other practitioners, and that makes me sharpen my iron when I get to be around people
Hmm.
like yourself and others. Like, oh, that's an interesting thought. I might have
Hmm.
to apply that in my next meeting, but that's not really, I am volunteering, I'm on the board, but I'm
Hmm.
really involved in it because I think it's critical to our GDP and just in our region,
Hmm.
versus, let it kind of go as it may. But the success percent, of handing the baton to kids and then third generation goes down and down. And I just want to fight the tide. I feel
Hmm.
like I'm swimming up against the current.
Right.
Maybe you do
Right.
too, but I'm going to give
Yeah.
my dart. I'm going to get my darndest, Phil.
Well, the silver tsunami, as they say, is here. It's
It
coming.
is. It
But
is.
no, I think that's one of the great things about West Michigan that makes the Grand Rapids area is really special. Kalamazoo as well,
Yeah.
um, surrounding areas is just the everyone I meet is just so involved in their community. They're involved in their
Yeah.
neighborhood. They're involved in their church. They're giving back. They're
Yep.
helping, and it's
Yep.
not about what I'm getting. It's about how can I. I've been blessed. I have resources. I have
Excellent.
health. I'm here to serve others. I love that, and I think that
I do
it
too.
just makes for such a great place to live.
You brought the word health up, Phil, and I'll throw this back to you just a second here. Although it is your podcast, sorry. I think
Good.
wealth is that marker. Someone like I said earlier, 10 minutes ago was, oh, my
Hmm.
company's worth 10 million, I think. Oh, okay. Now what? Does that define you better, less? Does it
Hmm.
make you feel like your efforts were worth it over those years where you missed Susie's soccer game and Billy's basketball game or missed
Hmm.
payroll, double mortgage? But when you get to that silver area, health is critical. And I don't like to lead with that, but I do have a case right now where there's a health problem and decisions are just a little bit cloudy because they're thinking, how long do I have?
Hmm.
Do I have regrets? Who do I need to make things right with? How much time do I have to get the next generation ready? And so health is something that kind of takes over for you built your wealth, right? The company is your wealth, not a
Hmm.
401k. But then health is something that unfortunately I've seen a lot of business owners kind of ignore that and just keep building their business and getting tired. I don't know. Have
Hmm.
you, have you seen that? Have you experienced
Oh
that?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Share a little bit, please.
Yeah. Well, I'm involved in a couple right now where that's exactly the case, where
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
health issues, either with the owner or the owner's spouse,
Yeah.
or in some cases children, and that
Mm,
can really either derail a plan that or the beginning of a plan
hmm.
or accelerate, just really
Yeah.
accelerate. But then when you're rushing, you're just making the triage decisions, like how do we get the most out of this really horrible situation, which is
Yep.
not optimal, right, at
No,
all.
no,
It's
no.
as we do estate planning within my
Right.
law firm, and it's the
Hmm.
same thing there. It's like, if you're trying to clean up a mess because something bad happened and there was no plan, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
whole different environment than, having a plan in place and having all the assets transferred by operation of law because you have trusts and you
Hmm.
have ladybird deeds and you have transfer on death certificates and you have, beneficiaries named appropriately. And there's really nothing to do except,
Right.
have a memorial and, eat some
Yeah.
cake,
Yeah.
but if you're cleaning up a mess and, for 2 years, like,
Yeah.
nobody wants to do that. And it gets way more complicated when there's a business involved.
Hmm.
So, man, a business owner that doesn't have their plan together is just really playing with fire as far as their legacy goes.
Getting back, 10, 15 minutes ago, just pencil a plan, and then maybe you do get some bad news before you thought we were going to have to deal with a health issue. But at least we have a map, right? It's a very tough situation to make sound decisions when you're battling something, whether it's your health or a loved one's health. Very tough to think clearly, and you don't know, as professionals, you and I we're kind of dancing on eggshells a little bit, like,
Hmm.
okay, we need to have another meeting, but they had a bad doctor's
Hmm.
appointment. So, and that's not
Yeah.
doomsday. I know it's everyone exits, right? Everyone exits their company and everyone exits life on earth. But
Hmm.
it's no fun to lead and serve business owners when there's chaos in their life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have just a couple wrap up questions, but before I
Sure.
do that, I got to go back to something you mentioned that I didn't know. I didn't know you were drafted by the Falcons. So you got to fill us in here. Where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to college? And walk us through that.
I'll go real quick because I'm sure that's not why they're listening to your podcast.
Hmm.
But I grew up in the city of Grand Rapids, played at Grand Rapids Christian in the city league. There were seven
Yeah.
schools,
Right.
three
Right.
three private, four public. It's
Uh-huh.
obviously decimated now, but
Right.
played all three sports: football, basketball, baseball. This is not a brag time; it's just facts. I
Hmm.
was all state in football as a quarterback, all state in basketball as a shooting guard, all state in baseball as a pitcher. So I love sports. I loved how it pushed me. I loved
Hmm.
how it opened up friendships of all colors, all patterns, all creeds, just ethnicity and city area. I just loved it. It was it. None of them all looked like me, and that was beautiful.
Hmm.
I just like high performing, Phil. Then a lot of scholarships for D1 for football and baseball, but they wouldn't let me play both.
Okay.
So if I was a tackle and offensive for football, I could be a shot putter in
Hmm.
track. They wouldn't have cared.
Okay.
But I played quarterback and pitched, so those really didn't go well. So I went from
Got it.
D1 scholarships to I just want to play, and so I chose
Hmm.
D3, and I went to Hope
Okay.
College in Holland.
Okay.
Yep,
Got it.
and had a
Okay.
great career there. Had wonderful
Uh-huh.
coaches, great
Hmm.
teammates, a lot of success, and then you know got got an opportunity with the Falcons after I graduated, and
Hmm.
wasn't quite good enough at that point, but it was still a great ride. I didn't go to Hope for that, obviously.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
a really tough school. I got an awesome diploma, and then I got
Hmm.
to do that too. So yeah,
Yeah.
and then I
That's
realized,
cool.
then I realized, Phil, I made the right choice. D3 was the right one.
Well,
I
I'm
still
glad you didn't play hockey because where my well, I'm from the same league, and whenever we played Grand Rapids Christian, we got smoked on the ice.
Where did
So
you go? Where'd you go again? I forgot. Oh,
Preston
that's
High
right.
School.
You're a polar bear. You're a polar bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now City High.
There you
But
go.
so here's what I want to do because some people are listening to this like this Greg seems like a cool guy. So how do we get a hold of you? How does someone track you down? And I'm just going to give you the last word. Any other thoughts you want to part ways, leave with us as we part ways.
No worries. You can email me. So it's just GregHeeres at Gmail. And then
Okay.
easy phone number is 888-308-1600. You can go to my website, which is maximizeleadership.com, and
Hmm.
I'll get to you ASAP. I would say, Phil, just for both of us and anyone who's in the business professional, business consulting, our job is to serve the business owners. They've
Hmm.
built this beautiful story, and I kind of want to frame it and protect it. And you got to bring in someone like yourself for estate, someone who needs to do the term sheets. I've even brought in some PR firms because
Hmm.
it was a pretty public company, and I didn't want the competitors to steal it, or steal the customers. So we
Oh,
play
that's a great
offense.
idea.
Yeah, we play offense and defense. And
Hmm.
but assembling a huddle, I play quarterback, and sometimes someone else runs the meeting. I just had to set it up. But
Hmm.
um, I take I'm more of a promise keeper than a maker. I find makers are a dime a dozen, keepers are very hard to find. So
Mm-hmm.
if they said, "Hey, can you really help me? Will you give me your time?" Yep, I promise. I'm not going to take on more clients until we're settled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and the teams feels the same way. I just feel um, it's important for that baton to be protected, and
Mm-hmm.
they led a company amazing. Leaving a company should also be amazing, and that's my job, really, to make it amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Greg, thank you.
Phil, it was a privilege. Thank you so much for having me. I know your podcast is popular, you're everywhere,
Mhm.
and just honored to give some content and get to know your audience and get to know you better too. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, brother. I'll see you at the next meeting.
Next meeting in May. You got it, brother.
Yes.
Take
There
care.
you
Have a
go.
good
All
weekend.
right. You too. Take care.
Thank you. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Bye.